Hello everybody, welcome to another Python tutorial. Now today I'm going to go through if statements, which I think are pretty simple, so I'm going to go through it kind of quickly. So to get right into it, if statements are, the syntax for it is this. So there's if, there's that, there's parentheses, and then when you press enter it's going to go to an indented block. Now what this means is that it will go to it'll check whether or not this right in here is true. It has to be either true or false, a boolean. So this statement right here is basically checking if our user input, as shown in the input statement right here, is equal to this string right here. Now user input will always be a string, like we said in the first user input video. It'll always be a string, so it'll take whatever user input that we're given. So if they say it's an L, and that means an L will be in a string, and then that letter L will be equal to the letter L, and this will return, sorry, hiccups. This whole statement will return true, and then it will run, and then what it does is it goes to this indented block right here. So it's basically saying if whatever inside this parentheses is true, then go to this indented block and run the code right here, and on this level of coding. So it'll run to this print statement, and then it will run to this if statement, because this if statement is on the same sort of level. You see right over here, they're sort of on the same level. They're both indented. Well, they're on the same level, so it'll run both these code. Now, if it's false, then it doesn't go to this indented block, which means none of these if statements get run, and this does. So as you can see up here, I said that this right here is equal to 1, and if none of these are run, if none of them are run, if you enter an R in the first statement, then that means this is still 1. You haven't done anything to it. That means this will be true, the if statement will run, and it'll print this. Now, I'm explaining sort of what this program is. This program is a sort of cave game, and you choose what way you want to go into. Let's say you're like trapped in a cave. There's a bunch of forks in a road, and you got to choose left or right for each one of them. So this is basically going through each one of them, and there's a lot of intersections. And if you end up choosing the right answer every single time, it'll go to this line right here. It'll print you went to the right if all these were true, and it sets that integer value from up above to 0. That means that this right here is false. Now, I'm going to explain to you what that is in the next video, but I'll explain a little bit about it right now. As you can see down here, it sort of explains it, but that means equals to. So it'll return true if both of these on each side of them are equal to each other, and it'll return false if they aren't. So as you can see here, the integer is equal to 1, and if the integer is equal to 1, then it'll return true, and then if what's in this statement, what's inside the parentheses is true, then it'll run this code. So that's pretty simple, and since if you get everything right and everything, it'll go up to this line of code, and then the integer is set to 0, and then that means that this is equal to 0 and this is equal to 1, which means 0 does not equal 1. So this will return false, this if statement won't run, and then this else statement will. Now the else statement is basically saying, oh, okay, so if the if statement didn't run anything, then we're going to run something else in place of it. So, and then at the end, so you saw that if you get any of these wrong, you get killed by a line. But if you get all of them right, you make your way out of the exit. It says the cave is ended, and you exited with tons of loot. that's a pretty, you can sort of go through it like a sentence. If uh, what we inputted is an L, then that will mean it's true, and that means the if statement will run. We go to the print statement, and then we keep going. So I wrote something down here which sort of does the same thing. So basically, it will ask you, what is 1 plus 1? And this Boolean right here is, and you can set Booleans to things. So if what you inputted is equal to this string right here, if it's equal to 2, then this will be true. This will be true, and then Boolean will be set to true. But if it's something else, then it'll be set to false. So that means if this is true, then it'll go to the print statement saying you know math. So if 1 plus 1 is 2, then you know math. But then this else if statement right here is different, because it's basically like an else statement. So instead of just running whenever integer doesn't equal 1, if we had an else if statement and required it to be something else, like instead of just saying like this else statement will run pretty much if the answer doesn't equal 3 and the Boolean is false. So an else statement will run every single time any if statements are not run. So, but the else if statement sort of acts like an if statement. So it's like an else and an if statement together. So it's going to run when the first if statement is false, and then it's going to check again for another answer. So we're checking again right here with the else if statement, and we're saying, well, if the Boolean's false, let's at least check if the answer is equal to 3. And we're going to print out something if you wrote 3. So if you wrote 3, then the else if statement will say that you wrote 3. And then if none of those are true, if you didn't write 3 and you didn't write 2, then it'll say you probably don't know math. So let's first see the cave game in action. We're just going to run these two, and then I think that's probably going to be it for the video, because I've pretty much explained everything. So I'm going to run this, and I'm going to play the cave game. So I'm going to just close my eyes and write some R's and L's. So I know what the first one is, I think. Yep. R. Okay, yeah, it wasn't R. So as you can see, it worked as intended. It went through the first if statement, and then the second one was false, so it just didn't run any of the other ones and went right back down to here. I could show you, yeah, I'll show you what it looks like to win. Oh yeah, it's asking now what. Okay, I know it's asking what 1 plus 1 is, but I'm still gonna play. I'm still gonna show you. So now I'm running the code. I'm gonna write in the right answers. L R R L R L R L L R. Okay, so we ended with a bunch of loot. It shows that we won, and the code works as expected. Now it's asking, what is 1 plus 1? Now, let's say, we're going to say 1 plus 1 equals 2. I know math. Yay. Let's run it again. I'm actually going to end the program, and I'm going to comment out this whole thing by doing 3 comments so we can get to the second program. So what is 1 plus 1? Let's say 2. Okay, I know math. What is 1 plus 1? I'm going to say 3. And it wrote as expected, you wrote 3. What is 1 plus 1? Let's say it's 1. It says you probably don't know math. So that right there is equals equals. That's the equals sign conditional operator. That is a lot of Boolean stuff, and that is if statements. So it's really been our first application of logical operators, booleans, and if statements, else if statements, and else statements. So the next video we're going to be going through logical operators, and yeah, that's going to be a pretty easy one, and then we're going to go through while loops. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to buy my merch. I put a link in the description. I've got some pretty sick t-shirts. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.